Hello everybody, welcome to Awesome Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already and drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and it makes a massive difference in how the video performs in the YouTube algorithm. So I'm in a not very good mood because I just recorded this video and my microphone was not plugged in. For some reason my computer said it was, but it wasn't. So I guess we're just going to do this again. I'm particularly annoyed because that was a good recording and I felt pretty strongly about it, but I guess we'll just do it again, but worse. So good content coming over here. I'm first going to quickly talk about the Nuggets versus Suns game. I don't really have much to say about this one at large. Both Devin Booker and Kevin Durant really didn't show up in this one, which if that's going to happen, obviously Phoenix is going to get cooked, which is exactly what happened. Frankly, I was surprised that some of the players that Phoenix had were in the game as late as they were, just because it really seemed like the game was out of reach going into the fourth quarter. Like, ultimately, like, do you think you can hold the Nuggets to below 20 points for that whole quarter? And then do you also think you can score 50 points in this quarter? Probably not. I realize you have to try to some degree, but if I feel like they were in the game until like the last 6 minutes or so. But anyways, that aside, with those guys not showing up and then everybody else for Denver really showing up, Jamal Murray had a good game. KCP had a huge game. Nikola Jokic was awesome. I think he hit 9 or 10 straight shots at one point. I really do truly believe that Jokic's touch in general is like easily the most underrated aspect about him, because frankly it's like all-time great, if not the greatest of all time in just the overall touch category. And that just makes him such a deadly player, because a lot of those shots were just from different areas on the court, whether they're floaters, hook shots, whatever. A lot of them were not point-blank layups. It's shots that still require some level of skill to hit, and he just made all of them in a row. But yeah, the one, I guess, funny anecdote I have for this game is I didn't watch the first quarter and a half initially. I have YouTube TV, so I just rewound it to watch all of it. But I checked the box score first, and it's like midway through the second quarter, and it says Nikola Jokic 15 points, which is standard, but KCP 17 points and Cameron Payne 16 points. Meanwhile, Devin Booker and Kevin Durant had like 7 combined. So I was like, what the hell happened in this game for that to happen? But yeah, Cameron Payne, basically the only Phoenix Sun who showed up in this game. I think he hit like 4 3-pointers. He was quite pivotal for them in their 30-point loss. DeAndre Ayton also did not play in this one, so we got a lot of Jock Landale, and eventually the Suns just ended up going small because Jock Landale's not that great, and that just resulted in even more cooking from Nikola Jokic. In fact, I feel like that stretch where he hit like 10 straight shots was while Landale wasn't even on the floor. But anywho, yeah, not much to say about that game. Denver showed up. The Suns did not. I kind of expected that to happen. I felt like Denver's the best team throughout this whole series. Devin Booker averages 41 on 90% true shooting in the 2 wins that they have in this series. That's a kind of standard to win that just cannot be met 4 times unless someone does something truly off the wall historic, which for a second there I was like, damn, maybe Devin Booker will do that. But no, not able to score 44 times on 90% true shooting 4 times to close this one out. But now let's talk about Boston versus Philly. But first, I'm going to introduce a segment, which is something I do all the time, but I'm now going to call it a segment. And it's one that, depending on which comment I read, they either love it or hate it, because some people love it when I complain about stuff, and some people hate it when I complain about stuff. But it's my channel, and I do what I want. So welcome to Jacob Complains About His Comment section. So if you're not aware, in this game, Jason Tatum 1 for 15 up until like the 4th minute of the fourth quarter, maybe 5 minutes in, 4.5, whatever, something like that. He hits a 3 over Joel Embiid. Then he pulls up for 3 more threes. I don't know if all of them pull-ups. I can't remember specifically, but I know at least 2 of the other ones were all huge shots that ultimately led to the Boston Celtics winning the game. And then my whole comment section is flooded with well, this didn't age well on my video where I titled Jason Tatum is a fake superstar. Now, I would understand for a lot of those people if they just read the title and commented that. I hate that that's how that works, but frankly, if I'm going to present a very not nuanced title, I can't necessarily expect the most nuanced comments. But a lot of them were talking as though they watched the video initially, which drove me bananas because the point of that video, essentially, Jason Tatum, you cannot be bad for huge chunks of the game regularly in a big games especially, and be considered a superstar. So being good for the second half of a game, but bad for the first half isn't enough to really be a superstar level player. And then in game 6, Jason Tatum is bad for 3.5 quarters instead of 2, and manages to go nuclear for the last 4 minutes of this game. Not taking that away from him, but for the game at large, his overall game was a bad game. This is like some clutch bias shit where, like, because it's the most recent thing to happen in the game, it's the most recent thing in people's memories. And also, like, if there's any stretch of the game for you to be good, it's the fourth quarter, so I'll give you that. But let's say Jason Tatum just hit 4 threes in a row, like in the third quarter, and then went back to being ass. We wouldn't sit here and pretend like he had some great performance, but it just happened to be the very last thing he did. So my point in the video, you can't be ass for huge chunks of the game and be a superstar. My title, essentially, Jason Tatum isn't a superstar. The comment section, this didn't age well, after Jason Tatum did exactly what I was talking about to an even further extent than he did in the last 2 games. It's just dumb. Like, the video did age well, actually. My exact point was immediately proven by Jason Tatum. Being good for the last 5 minutes of the game does not entirely make up for being ass for the first whatever other minutes he played in the game. I don't know what he finished with, but regardless, that's to compare it to something. Here's a nerd reference for you. If anybody here is an MCU film, they're pretty. If anyone here is an MCU film, Jesus Christ, MCU fan. I go back and forth. Lately, not as much, but Guardians 3 is pretty great. So go watch it. There's my endorsement. James Gunn is a great director. But that aside, Age of Ultron, Tony Stark creates Ultron. Ultron tries to destroy the world. Tony Stark, along with the Avengers, stop Ultron. After that, I'm not going to be like, yay, go Tony, good job Tony, you're a great guy, you did a good thing. No, you did this. The reason the Celtics were down is because Jason Tatum played like shit. If Jason Tatum was even 6 for 15 to that point in the game, no comeback would have been necessary. Not to mention the role that Philly played in this for blowing it, but that's a whole other thing. We'll get to that in a second. But it was just pretty maddening to me to receive that comment literally hundreds of times when it's, no, the video aged well. It just did. The point I made was proven yet again. But anyways, I'll let that go. I'll let it slide. It's not the biggest deal in the world. I just didn't, it bothered me, and I thought it might have been interesting. Another thing to say that's not really that much basketball analysis. There's frankly not that much to say for either of these games from me. There is a little bit I'll talk about with like the Robert Williams adjustment in a second here. But I was watching this game while watching Ted Lasso with my family. I've watched the episode before, so I was basically just watching the game and listening to it. And as Tatum is being asked, the episode's playing through, but then reaches the part of the episode where there's this really climactic and powerful speech. It's like midway through season 3. It's my favorite speech of the whole show. There's a lot of them. Really dramatic. It's a sports speech. It's about believing in yourself. And then after the speech ends, Jason Tatum immediately hits that first 3 over Joel Embiid. And I just thought the timing of that was impeccable. So yes, Ted Lasso is the reason why the Celtics won Game 6. That's my official take. I would title the video that, but I want views. So yeah. But let's real quick talk about the Robert Williams thing. I think that was easily the biggest like chess match type coaching decision of this entire thing. Robert Williams has not played much in this series. I don't even know what, I can't even remember him playing. Did he even play? He's definitely done it a little bit. My memory is a lot worse than it used to be. Just as a point to prove it, I forgot what I was talking about. Right, Robert Williams, defensive adjustment. They brought him into the game. They started him next to Al Horford, had Al Horford be Joel Embiid's primary defender, and Robert Williams defend PJ Tucker. I think PJ got like 2 threes out of this, but ultimately they played the you can shoot it if you want game with him, and we're just going to double team Embiid and make it a lot harder for him to do anything inside the paint. And it worked pretty well. Joel Embiid didn't have some terrible game, but he also didn't have a monster one by any stretch. And it seems like the adjustment that they probably should have made earlier and will definitely be going with down the stretch. As for my prediction for Game 7 at large, I definitely feel like Boston's got it at this point. I really felt like Philly had to close it out on their home floor in Game 6. And they just didn't. They just simply didn't. And I was kind of starting to buy it. I've always been historically pretty doubtful of the 76ers, but I started to believe, like just maybe this team will be in the NBA Finals. Frankly, it's what I've been rooting for, because Embiid versus Jokic, while that would be very toxic, would also be incredibly fun and good for business, frankly. But no, doesn't seem like it's going to happen. Of course, we could get like a 40-piece from James Harden in Game 7, and that doesn't happen. But he's not exactly typically known for showing up in the elimination games, so I don't know. Don't feel particularly great about their chances. And speaking of James Harden as well, he was probably the biggest culprit for why this game went the way that it did for Philly. I think he went 3 for 14, if I'm remembering correctly. It just seems like, other than Game 5, he's either been ass or great. And they got the ass version of him for Game 6. And I guess, frankly, Game 7 will be decided by which version of him you get. And just, again, given Harden's track record in elimination games, I wouldn't be taking that bet. But yeah, that is it. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video. And that is it. I already said that. Goodbye.